Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you are watching this new participatory group program. Today we have a very special guest with us, Gloria Juste. How are you, Gloria? How are you? Gloria is a representative of the Palladium Group. Now she's going to tell us what she does, and she's the Director of Corporate Social Responsibility and Sustainability. And we have, as always, our star guest, Antonio Lopez Peláez, Professor of Social Work and co-director of the Participatory Group at Madrid City Council. We thank the City Council again for its support and for creating these synergies. Today, as we were saying, we have Gloria Juste with us. She works at the Palladium Group, and you might be wondering what a private company does in an interview with the Participatory Group, which is a community of practice focused on public participation. Well, that's what she's here to tell us. In other words, why is public-private collaboration necessary? Why is it necessary for private companies to get involved in the environment in which they are physically present? And also, we will do it with a very pleasant, sweet, and amazing professional like her, like Gloria. Tell us a little bit first, what does the Palladium Group do in general? And then we'll get into more detail. What does it do in terms of participation and social responsibility? Well, first, thank you both for inviting us, for leaving us this space to participate. It's true that I do consider it's key that we are always adding public and private with public, because what we are really interested in is doing things well and impacting the communities where we operate. The Palladium Group is a hotel group, which means we are present in many places and in a very close and human way towards people. This makes us really want to get involved and work hand in hand first with our own staff, but also the communities where we operate, with institutions that work there, and the difference must be noticeable. Hey, a hotel company has arrived to do things right, to get involved, to engage, to collaborate and contribute. And that's what we are trying to do. We are present in 7 countries at one point, in addition to a lot of expansion. And it's a very nice job because it's a group that has grown a lot. It was initially a family company, and that's obvious in the methodology and the way we collaborate and participate, which is what brings us together in the day-to-day management too, because it's a group that's now super international and very professional, but it hasn't lost its personal and human touch. The truth is that when we think about how a hotel participates in social life, it's very interesting to think about how you connect within the existing stakeholders with the cultural activities dynamics. What example can you give us of a project you're really proud of? Well, the truth is we've been able to launch a ton of very different initiatives. We always have very key pillars. We start with our people, our staff. We have several projects where our 15,000 employees are represented, with a family environment, because many of our profiles are staff members with families that need extraordinary support beyond work. So there's a series of very interesting projects we do with them. Then the other pillar is our communities, which is what I think most focuses on, most motivates us today here. And the third pillar, which is the planet, because the reality is that, well, probably the most important hotel where we are all welcome is ours, our own planet, and all the activities we do related to the environment. To highlight a new program in the employee area, we've designed a training scholarship program so that employees' children can access higher education, because in many cases it's not easy for them. We've even developed a much more selective and extraordinary group of scholarships, which is a small group of people who, after the selection process, can attend 5 or 6 years of their studies, depending on the degree they pursue. They can study at a private university. We support them throughout the entire academic process, as well as their personal support and everything in between. It's a very concrete way of saying we want you to return to the communities with specialized training, which is what they need at the moment. It's a way to unite the community, unite employees. At community level, we've identified in many of our countries there's a stage of training that they miss out on because they have to go to work, or because, well, we've created vocational training centers for trades, not so much university studies, but more for trades that provide and generate employment, because it's true that the best social assistance you can give someone is to give them a job. You'll probably change their life. I would highlight that aspect of training and employment as one of our priority areas of support and citizen participation. The truth is that it's really insightful and revealing for us. That's why we wanted to interview you, because I think it's a new vision, new outlook at the traditional concept that we all have of resorts and hotels closed in their own environments and that don't communicate with the territorial reality, with the community. So the fact that a business group looks both inward and outward seems to me like a change in business management, right? And also a change, which is what you were saying, in the relationship between the location, which is usually privileged, of course, for a hotel, because that's its appeal, and the environment in which it's located. I suppose that when a hotel begins to relate to the community around it, the reception might not be as lovely as you might expect at the start, because you might be viewed with some reluctance or not, or whatnot. So how do you reach those communities to say, well, we want to do this project by cooperating, co-creating it? How easy is it? How do you begin to establish that human and then professional relationship? I love this because it has a impact, a returns to the territory where you're operating. It doesn't get lost out in space. The truth is, I'd say I've been working in this sector for a little over 2 years, and I thought a lot like you regarding the profile. It's true that the focus is on customer experience. Take good care of your clients. We're not talking about resort-oriented hotels in the Caribbean right now, but we have a lot of urban hotels under the Only You brand. In the communities, we also want to integrate making these hotels close to the people so that they come in, so that they want to experience that neighborhood life also with you. But we have also got projects, for example, in Europe, in all our urban areas, called 4 causes, where we've selected 4 social causes we want to focus on, and where the nearly 20 hotels we have here simultaneously work on at least one social project every quarter for the first cause, the smallest. The second cause is inequality, which we work a lot on with people with different abilities. The third cause is the planet. And the fourth cause, I'm talking in terms of time, not priorities, but the time of work we can dedicate, which is the greatest, which is valuable, because it means reaching out to the number of people in a city who live alone. And there we also do a lot with the issue of participation, because our approaches to the public and private organizations that work in the area and that are much more expert than we are, since we are actually hotels. We're not social experts, and so our approach is we want to be at your disposal. What can we do? My surprise has been that many other hotel groups are also trying to make a rather extraordinary effort to reach out to the communities and add to what many public and private organizations are already doing well in those areas. So I admire that. I like it. I learn a lot from what others do, and we truly have a spectacular path ahead of us, because it's very easy. You sit down, no matter the location. You arrive in Brazil and you sit with the social and public organizations there. There's always something to do, something to offer. Participation is huge. It's a match that makes a lot of sense, and it also builds you as a company and as individuals, so the end result is a win-win. How interesting to think about it for all of you listening to us, not in these participation programs, because of course a hotel or a company, instead of being a force focused on the event and its business, it becomes something permeable to the environment, and it ends up becoming a space for coexistence. So for example, do you have musical activities organized with the communities? What activities, if you could give us a specific example, maybe within these 4 pillars you mentioned? For example, I organize jazz activities every week, magic activities with groups, or maybe a visit to the hotel terrace with persons with disabilities. but not because you've organized it from within, but because you've permeated, worked with, and connected with the community. It's spectacular what we can do because the environment is so beautiful. It's not really our merit, it's just so incredibly tasteful. The 4 year of the project, Four Causes, Four Seasons, as it's called, included 92 social projects with all of our employees. We've been able to impact more than 3,000 beneficiaries who've participated in our hotels. We have an agreement with the Abracadabra Foundation, which you mentioned as an example, magic shows. Oh, really? I know many of them. Yes, they've held events in our hotels for young people, children, and adults, which, by the way, have been a huge success. We throw parties to which we invite them at the hotel, dance classes, theaters, magic shows. In other words, opening the doors of our hotel to do something extraordinary that breaks the routine of many of these groups that are very close to us and that sometimes we're not even remotely aware of. That's especially true in the Four Cause project, and we are now taking it to the Americas. This year, 2025, it's already in all of the Americas as well. But for example, in all the Caribbean countries, Jamaica, it's a priority when a hotel is there, not only for the Four Cause project, which we do with slightly more vulnerable groups, but also with the community in general. Do you have to buy local products? We leave local craft markets within the hotel itself for the guests to come to, which is also a total win-win, because if you're an English guest going to Jamaica, would you find it interesting to know what local crafts consist of, what kinds of food products are popular? There are some very beautiful initiatives like that have a double impact, both social and environmental, which are circularity initiatives. For instance, we recycle leftover soap, and using special machines we turn it back into bars of soap that we donate to local NGOs, and they can only sell that new bar. This way we avoid the rather heavy environmental impact of soap manufacturing, and we also give them an interesting source of financing. We're doing it in several destinations with linen, with fabrics that can no longer be reused. So you're reaching out to nearby institutions, allowing them to market that product, and that generates the income they absolutely need. There's so much you can do. I insist it's not very commendable on our side because the opportunity is there, right? I think you're taking credit away from yourself, but it seems to me that there's been a profound change. That is what you're telling us, which seems absolutely reasonable, normal. Maybe 10 years ago was unthinkable. I mean, the idea of a wall has always existed, right? So it seems to me that there has been a beautiful, precious change and that it needs to be disseminated widely because, and that's why it makes sense for a university to do it. I mean, why is a university disseminating this information? Well, because it helps us think academically about ways to collaborate, because universities in that sense can also, for example, as I was already thinking about scholarships, training, collaborate and participate with private companies so that this win-win is also institutional, business and academic. So I don't know if I'm as energetic as you are, Gloria, because it's very difficult, but I'm already thinking of ways to teach people. I've already started, I mean, in academic projects. What's the name of this saying? Don't give somebody a fish, teach them how to fish. I think that collaboration with training is key to change others' lives, especially thinking about sustainability over time, so that knowledge is passed down from one generation to the next. Because in fact, let it be clear that we are in no way committed to studying anything related to hospitality. Those who are currently receiving the scholarships have a biomedical degree, psychology degree, some in business too, but they have degrees. It's a purely vocational thing. If we don't have any doctors in the community, I would love them to return to us, but they won't be necessarily employed by us. Their doors are open to them, obviously, but it's not a reciprocal commitment from either side. So I totally agree. I mean, how could a university like you not collaborate? Besides the moment of greatest concern and excitement for someone who's learning and so on is the moment to inspire that concern to truly take shape and have an impact over time, which is what we want. Absolute commitment on your part and from socially committed companies like ours. I assure you, and I've also encountered it like this, which is why I said before that I've been here for a little over 2 years, because during the process, they really told me, we really want to give a lot of importance to social issues. I find what you say very interesting in a society as polarized as the ones we are living in bubbles, what social media analysts call echo chambers, where people are in silos. The cities are built and often overdone in expansion plans, closed fortresses where resources are individualized. It's the other way around. Presenting a hotel in a rural area will bring more tourists, and here they take away space from us if we don't create a space for community and meeting up despite its main activity, right? In other words, I'm from Malaga. Hotels are almost all like this. Of course. How beautiful. Anyway, the key is to break this path, this stereotyping of tourism and hotels and activities as something closed inwards, a benefit, let's say, extractive from the environment with no return to the neighbors, to the city, and doing the opposite, which is what you were saying. Right, in urban planning, in our city model, the hotel resource really needs to be taken into account and included within the participatory framework as a priority, not to stop their activity, but so that they become small relational, cultural, expansive frameworks. Of course, I don't know if you're right, Marta, when you say that this is a natural, fairly natural evolution. In general, I think that all people need to feel more like a part of something, that feeling of being a group, I'm a community, I'm a company. I find that there's a lot of enthusiasm in general to be a part of it. So arriving somewhere and not taking advantage of it, I think that would be terrible. Apart from that, you learn a lot, and your own people, your own employees, your own colleagues, they are local people. So something that really caught my attention because I wasn't aware of it is that in these Caribbean hotels, because they are in such idyllic destinations, there aren't usually very large cities nearby. People who work there live far away, and they create what are called settlement. In Mexico, especially in the Dominican Republic, you find hotels where 1,500 people live in it. The commitment that I had when I went to see these places, I thought, how can we sleep peacefully? Their leisure time depends on you creating those spaces for them, sports areas, leisure areas, cafes, so that they can have a beer. I mean, you develop a much closer and more intimate relationship with your collaborators. They're called, not employees, because the idea is to collaborate with them to make their lives much happier while providing an extraordinary service, because, hey, that's what characterizes this type of hotel. The extraordinary service these people provide means that they deserve to be taken care of. I think we could be here all morning, afternoon, or night, but with this summary and this vision we have enough. I'd perhaps ask you, Gloria, in 5 years, you've been here for 2 years. Give us a dream, an idea, proposal you have in mind that you'd like the company to implement, or maybe a future challenge, so that we come interview you in 3 years and you'll tell us, hey, well, from now on we've been able to work along these lines, something that you feel proud of or want to share as a final remark. Since the whole thing is about participation, I would really feel very proud if any employee, any location in the Palladium Group were committed to working internally and externally with this desire to make an impact, because I believe this would be a multiplier factor. In other words, you can't decide how the corporate committee is doing from an office in Madrid. If this radiates and trickles down to every one of the 15,000 employees, I think we could work with so much more presence in all the destinations we are in. I'm working on replicating this in a very serious, professional, clear, concrete way with concrete ideas so that we can have 3 times the impact we are having now. The truth is, I love to listen to you. I love this show and the program. I think for me, the way I summarize this conversation is that the hotel sector is an indispensable resource for citizen participation. It's a new player that has been there around for some time, but we need to strengthen it, and it's a key factor in enabling the city structure to grow differently, transforming and creating a different kind of interaction that both in terms of the stigma against the activity of tourism and the hotel industry and in terms of being proactive, we should think of it as another resource in planning, urban planning, both in the modalities and dynamics of eco-design with citizens. It's going to become an essential resource in the coming years, especially in Spain, which is a touristic country. You can count on Palladium whenever you want, that's for sure. Thank you very much, Gloria, for your presence. As you can see, Gloria is a born leader and she's going to make this dream of hers a reality. I'm absolutely sure. Thank you, Antonio, for your always wonderful conversation. Enjoyable, interesting. Thank you to our technicians who take care of us, our makeup artist Yolanda, who is spectacular, and to UNIT and the Madrid City Council making this project come true.